What's going on, guys? I'm going to use this video to potentially run through a couple different stocks. Let's see if I can do them pretty quickly. The first one I want to look at is going to be Riot. Actually, I'm going to try to do this from a clean slate, but just to take a look at the trend. Obviously, it's been way down. This could be just a reaction rally that's bringing us back up. However, it is kind of looking pretty nice because we can see here that we started a potential uptrend right here, which could end up being a bear fly because we do have this crazy bad move into it. But one thing that we're going to want to keep in mind here is that we had a lot of support potentially in this region up to about, probably about this zone here. Actually, I'm going to call it about right here at 2187. And the reason that I'm going to do that is because when we broke this, we came back, we back tested it, and then we dropped. So this was pretty much a confirmed breakdown. So the previous pattern, or the previous support, was way up here, and this was the huge pattern. I mean, you could almost draw it out like something like this, but so this is obviously a very bearish looking setup here. However, we can still potentially see some moves happening here if we catch it at the right time. So what I'm kind of looking for a setup here on Riot, if this is going to play out, is that we could see another retest back up at this 2169 here, because just because it looks this bearish doesn't mean that it can't reclaim something. This could have been some kind of inverse head and shoulders here that's broke to the upside, and now we're starting to flag out here, and then this could push us to the next leg up. And if we did get some kind of pullback there, we could actually set ourselves up for something, a bigger inverse head and shoulders, but that's all speculation. I can't tell the future of what this is going to do. But I can, however, look at this, what's going on right now, and see if we could be making some kind of bullish move. And one thing that I will say is that although we had it's hard to say exactly because this was so choppy here, we had potentially this fake breakout breakdown, or we could start the support from right there and say that this is our overall uptrend right now. And that is something that you might want to look into doing, because if we did resort ourselves back to this trend line at any given time, whether it ends up just going sideways here, tapping it, and then getting our next pull to the upside, or if we end up having a straight down move here, if Bitcoin decides to get rejected where it is now and then rip back up. I mean, obviously it's hard to say, but so that's the first thing that you'd probably want to do, is draw that uptrending support. And then as far as the resistance, I mean, right now we've had 2 touches on the support line, and if we were to draw this like this, we can obviously see this could be a potential bearish pattern. But one good thing to notice, and this is just going off of the wicks, not the candle bodies, but one good thing to notice is that if this is potentially, or was potentially, a rising wedge, we're actually getting a bullish move out of it, which that support right now sits around, I mean, according to as of right now, 1809, tomorrow roughly 1811. But that's just something to consider if you want to look at it in a bearish scenario here, which isn't too bad of an idea. But we did have this very, very nice move right here, which could insinuate a bullish move to the upside, could continue. If we were to just kind of make like a bull flag out of this, because we can see that the buyers continuously stepped in down here at the 1727, and based off of the candle bodies, if we zoom in here, based off of the candle bodies roughly, we can see that most of the time when we did get wicks above this area right here of 18 bucks roughly, but it's 1796, when we got bodies or wicks above it, the bodies always came back below and closed below. Same here, came up, closed below. And that was just basically showing that although the buyers were strong enough, the seller, to push us above, the sellers always brought us back down. But anytime we came to this lower point, somebody was sitting down here buying. And right now, as of around the closing time, we actually ripped above this 1795, which is a great thing to see. although the wick still roughly came up in the same 1852, actually a little bit lower area. So that's going to be something that we do have to look at. But looking over here on the left before this drop down, roughly this, I actually like to go to the last, I like to try to find the resistance prior. So, maybe go up here, because what we can see, even just with these three candles, actually tells a pretty good story, is that, when wicks were getting below, the bodies weren't closing below. And then finally we got this body closing below that line, and this actually proved to us that we were going to continue down. We came back and back tested it and fell down. And this is actually at 1901. So, I mean, it's not too far off from where we are, but it is something to consider that now we're way up here. Price was at this 14 bucks. It's ripped all the way up here. We could only have a little bit more time before tapping this and potentially, making it to this 19 and then getting completely rejected, only to come back down to this 16, 15 again, and then continuing up to try again. I mean, that's something to think about. So if you are trying to enter here, like I actually did today, I actually just bought here right at 17.96. Just to try a little small trade. But if we can actually continue up here and get a push, and this ends up turning out to be a bull flag, and we can clear that $19 resistance, we can take this and potentially draw it as a bull flag here. And if we were to take a measured move, it actually brings us up perfectly to this 21.87. So this is just, a few little things that you can do and look at, and it's always good to zoom out and see what previous consolidation happened and in what zone. And we can actually see right here we had previous consolidation right there in between the same like $17 to $22 area here. So anything below that, I mean anything below here, which was scary that we went as low as we did and still found support, but pretty much anything below this pretty much level right there was a big potential for a drop, because we had all this price action moving up and it was just not much consolidation. I mean, we came up, pulled back a little bit, came up, pulled back a little bit, and then we just took off, pulled back. We found support right here, roughly at that $17 range, and then we just went straight up. So we did try to build some support here back on top of this $22 range, but we really got so much resistance, and we just ended up falling over. But I mean, that's pretty obvious in the chart. But this could potentially be trying to set back up. It is a riskier play because obviously we don't want to bottom feed, but we do want to try to get these small bullish looking moves here. And that's kind of what I'm seeing right now, is the potential possibility for a bullish move to be setting up here. And I like to play little bull flag breakouts here on hourly setups, because you can make a lot of money on them as long as you continue moving your stops up and you kind of have a reasonable target. Like for me, if I do get this move and we do actually end up getting above and holding above, even if we were to come up here to 19, come back, retest this $17.70 to $18 range, and then move to the upside, that's perfectly fine. And then I might have to see what happens here, whether I've moved my stop loss back to that yellow line or what I do. But obviously time will tell. But this is just a nice little potential setup here that could be forming something nicely. Another thing we can see, looking quickly, I don't want to get too much more into it. Obviously, the RSI got a nice bounce there. We can see that. And then we actually had this momentum indicator, the MACD, pull to the downside, cross negatively, and we really didn't get that affected. We only pulled down here, roughly in between this bull flag here. And before, now we actually are starting to potentially roll back to the upside again. So, I mean, that's pretty good to see when you get an hourly MACD sell signal and then you pretty much instantly cross back up. That's pretty much a bullish thing in my view anyway. And now we're getting this breakout here. So, I mean, pretty much looking at like a 4-hour and stuff, we can see a nice 4-hour candle here. The volume's not too crazy. It's falling off a little bit, but it's just something to watch, that as we approach this $22 resistance, this is where we have to start being a little bit more careful, of course. And then looking at the Ichimoku cloud, we can see that this 4-hour, this is my favorite Ichimoku cloud signal, this red right here. This red line right here, coming up and tapping that, usually can call a top in many cases. If you do break through, you know, we can look at like a daily or a weekly as well. But you know, on the daily, we can see this blue line right here. This was holding price action down since this rejection right here. We finally closed the daily below, and we've done nothing but roll down below. And now we can see on the daily here, for a bullish looking signal, this blue converging line right here, this recent daily candle, although we closed it just a little bit higher than the previous candle, we are still above, and that's at 1754, 1753. So, I mean, you know, there's a few things that you can look into to try to get yourself the best edge and be like, you know, where could I be getting resistance at? Could this just be a fake rally? We've now had 2 bullish candles in a row. That's a pretty good sign considering that we've been nothing but, you know, red this whole way down here. We've dropped even just from like this retest of this Ichimoku cloud right here all the way down. We're down 67%. So, I mean, you know, even to come back up and test any of these daily, you know, resistances, whether it's $24, I mean, that's not a, looking at a daily chart, that doesn't look too bad to consider. We could come all the way up to this point here of 24.34. You know, this was the same area here that the daily candle body could never close above 24.34. So if we did actually end up continuing this rally here and just making a rising channel that eventually breaks us down lower again, you know, this is a nice swing potentially setting up here. So, you know, just something to think about. You know, our weekly RSI has bounced as well. You know, and then our weekly Ichimoku cloud converging line here is up at $29. Is that a far-fetched? It could be, but you know, Riot can go crazy sometimes, and it's been so beat down, you never know. It could actually find itself having some kind of good rally with Bitcoin moving to the upside. But this has been way too long on Riot, and I always get way too far into stuff. But, you know, another thing to look at here on the hourly using the Ichimoku cloud is showing, although this is red Ichimoku cloud resistance here, we have pushed through, back tested it, and continuing up. I mean, that's a good thing to see, but we do need to see this cloud flip green, and we have not seen that since way back here when it finally did flip green. Look at this, we came up, we trended on it, we came back, and finally when we did take a nice rip, we came back and the cloud was starting to finally flip green, although we broke below. And then that second test up, that was when we really took off. I mean, this is on an hourly, so a lot of price action happened since then. But you know, this was way back. But yeah, that being said, we still need to see this Ichimoku cloud flip green and everything to really confirm something. But I am starting to, you know, take a look at this because it has had some bullish price action, and the daily's starting to look decent, and it looks like the buyers are holding us up. So, you know, whether we'll have to see how it goes, but even just stop lossing it somewhere down here below this $17 range, even, you know, below 1672 at the lowest, you don't even have to have that high of a risk. I'd probably just stop it below this bull flag right here. But, you know, this is a nice little trade setup potentially if you stop it right here, maybe below this converging line on the hourly right here of, you know, 1676, and ride it up with a target up in 24.19 to 22. You know, decent trade, but just something to look